Thank you. Welcome everyone to session 10 of the Native Connections National Learning Community. My name is Dr. Marty Richardson. I am a grantee technical assistant with the Native Connections TTA Center. And I am also here with my fellow GTAs, Chanel Ford and Shabri Perico. We are so glad you are joining us as we facilitate today's session. We want to recognize SAMHSA staff whose continuous support helps make this work possible across Indian country and Alaska. Maureen Madison, John Dunbar Cooper, Margaret Springing, and our GPOs, Angela Mark, William Reyes, Michelle Cornett, Amara Matlock, Brandon Johnson, Jennifer Capella, Michelle McVeigh, Portland Ridley, and others who will be joining us today. Thank you all to SAMHSA staff for recognizing the importance of our work that we do here at Native Connections. Before we get started, we would like to ask Mark if he would give us some quick tips for Zoom today. Welcome again.
Thank you, Marty. I just want to let you guys know that there's a microphone in your lower left-hand corner. Just keep that muted as much as possible while we're recording until you get into your breakout rooms. There's a camera right next to it. You can start your camera. And if you did have a dial-in number, please go into the attendees box in the middle and rename your phone number to your name if you can. And if you have a phone number, please chat that, who that belongs to. That way we can identify you for records. And that's all I have, Marty.
Thank you so much, Mark. At this time, with all of our events, our webinars, our NLCs, RLCs, we always open in a good way. And today we have what we call in my language, Witaje, my friend, or Kola in his language. Mr. Leon Leadercharge is going to do our opening today and open in a good way. So thank you so much, Leon, and take it away.
Thank you, Marty. I appreciate everyone being here today. It's an honor to be asked to open this up in a good way and send good energy for the healing that's going on in Native country. A lot of our relatives are having struggles. So with that, makes me think of a song that we use in ceremony. Its signification is through the eagle. The eagle is creator's messenger and is one of the closest beings to creator. So the eagle shares those healings with us as relatives. So in the song, he talks about as he comes as a relative, like a grandfather, and that he's going to bring some sacred energy to heal us. And also the song says the people rely on you. So that's what the song says. So I'll say a short prayer or a short send my voice, and then in my language, Hoye Waye we call. And with that, join me, please. Tukashila, grandfather, Wakantanka, creator, Betukile na washte na, Lila wopila tanka pelo, Tukashila, we chose anina woke, Mayaku chapona. We want to say thank you on this day that we're grateful for in good health and the help you've given us. Tukashila na mitaki apina tuma. Yutaka homnina, we chose anina woke wanglakina tukasha oyate kiani pikte. And all the people to continue to have good life, and all the people that come into this circle. And we're sitting here, give us good health and good help. So with that, I'll move to the song. All my relations, midakuye oyase. Ya 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 ha ya yo hey ya 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 ha yo hey Tukashila wakaya teki wakaya ya opelo heye oya teki hawachi ni apicha hena hoye ya pelo hey ay ya ya hey ha ya hey yo hey Hey ha ya, hey ha, hey ha ya, hey ha, hey ha ya, hey ha ya, hey yo, hey yo. Tunkashila wambli oya teki wakaya ya opelo hai oya teki hawachi ni apicha ena hoye ya pelo hai. Oh, thank you guys. Have a good day and a good presentation. Medako yo yasin.
Thank you so much, Leon, for that beautiful prayer and the song as well. And thank you for agreeing to open up our NLC today. We're going to have our other GTAs introduce themselves. So Chanel, introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much, Leon. That was beautiful. Actually, it was interesting. My dogs just came running in when you started singing, so they must have needed some of that good medicine to kick off their day too. So thank you so much for that. I'm Chanel Ford. I am a lead grantee technical assistant under the Native Connections Project. I am a Spokane tribal member, and I reside in Spokane, Washington. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to share the content we have for you. Shabri, I'll pass it to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shabri Perico. I am a grantee technical assistant with the Native Connections Training and Technical Assistance Center. I support some cohort 4, 5, and 6 Native Connections grantees. So I see some of my grantees on the call today. Excited to have you here. And I am located in Seattle, Washington, but I am actually in California today. So I am calling you from here. I'm excited to have you be a part of today's National Learning Community, and we have a lot of wonderful grantee presentations I think you'll learn a lot from. So thank you, and I'm going to pass it on back to
Nahampipi, Dr. Marty Richardson Minkila Kewa, Halawasaponi Yesa, Hollister, North Carolina Watiwa. My name is Dr. Marty Richardson. I am from the Halawasaponi tribe, and I live in Hollister, North Carolina. I am a GTA as well as communication specialist with the Native Connections TTA Center. And so thank you again for coming today, and hopefully we'll have a good time and learn a lot and share a lot. Thank you. Right now we'll talk about the purpose of the NLC. If we could move to the next slide, please. The purpose of the NLC, or National Learning Community, is to provide a safe space for grantees to share innovative programmatic adaptations or modifications because of the pandemic. Each NLC will feature NC grantees who have agreed to share their stories of how they're adjusting and successfully implementing their Native Connection grant projects in the midst of the global pandemic and global crisis. Throughout each NLC, grantees are encouraged to share their stories of adjusting to the new normal.
All right, and I'm just going to kind of go over our National Learning Community Session 10 theme for you guys today. We chose the theme Program Resiliency during the COVID-19 pandemic. We're going to explore that a little bit through our breakout room discussion that we're going to be having you guys do. And also our grantee spotlights will be sharing specifically how they have really just shown their program resiliency during this interesting time that we're all in right now. So I'm going to touch a little bit on grantee breakout rooms for you guys. So we'll have these topics here. Each one of you is going to be randomly assigned to a breakout room. You will have 15 minutes once in the breakout room for a discussion on your assigned topic, which will be one of these topics here. You will have a grantee technical assistant, a GTA, in your room with you to kind of move the conversation along, to steer you guys, but really we want you to utilize this time to really discuss among one another what, thinking of the theme of program resiliency and thinking of these questions, share your input, highlight your specific examples, your specific times through this, and ask any questions that you might have. Share any insights that you might have. We really want you to get the most out of these 15-minute breakout rooms that we have scheduled for you. When you get into the room, it's very important to identify at least one person to write down to be the scribe for your breakout room. And that individual will also share out when we pop out of the breakout room. So identifying one individual per breakout room so that you can scribe, you can gather the information that's being shared back and forth. And then as soon as we pop out of the breakout rooms, we will ask you guys to share out. We're going to give you about 2 minutes to kind of to wrap up what you've talked about and share out with your peers. So please just remember to do that when you go into these rooms. If anybody loves scribing and loves sharing out, be sure to volunteer as soon as you get into your breakout room. We'll send you a 2-minute warning before bringing you guys all back into the main room. So about 15 minutes conversation, and then we'll give you a warning to pop back into the main session. There's prompters, like I said, you have your topics here, but once you get into your breakout room, your GTA that's in your breakout room will go ahead and share their screen, and they will have prompter questions on their screen for you to start kind of going in and sharing out on whatever topic of discussion you have in your room. If you need any technical support, Mark, the man, is on the line. He is able to assist you. So be sure to reach out to him, message the main chat room, and he can assist in anything that you guys might have. So if there's no questions right now, I saw a couple pop up, so I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. If you don't have any questions, please go ahead and, Mark, take us away. All right, well, I think we have time to go into our breakout, share out and discussion, and I think Shabs, you were going to lead that.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Welcome back. I know in my group, we had a wonderful discussion in the breakout room that I was in, and we weren't able to get to every grantee, which I think is just a sign that we were having such wonderful discussion. So I'm excited to hear what everyone else discussed in their breakout rooms. So we're gonna be able to do this grantee share out, and I hope everyone identified one person in their group to write down old school notes with a pen and paper, and we'll go around and be able to discuss, or I'm sorry, just share out what you were able to discuss by topic. And so at this time, we're gonna give each group about 1 or 2 minutes, to share out the 3 main takeaways that your group discussed. And those 3 things will have the one person that was able to write down be able to share those things out. And we'll start kind of at the top of the list with the first topic being cultural activities and strategies and prevention. So if you were the GTA that was responsible for that first group, and I believe we had 2 GTAs that covered that group, we will kind of give it over to you and those that were identified in your group to be able to report out on that. That was group 1 and 2.
Hi, Shabri, it's Connie. I'm
definitely
2.
Unmute you.
We were group 2 for that one,
Okay,
so just let you know.
Connie. Awesome. Who was group 1?
It's Hunter.
I can't see over here on my screen.
Yeah.
Hi, Hunter.
Hi.
Awesome.
Okay. Do you want me to go? Are you ready?
Well,
okay.
Who was your scribe?
Yeah. So they actually picked me. So I was like, okay, I'm team player.
I told
All right,
you
I can do this.
That, Hunter.
I was like, they volunteered me. I was doing it. So I just want to say I had the best group of all the breakout rooms. I'm telling you right now. So I had Maria and Michael, Janelle, Jacqueline, and our GPO was Michelle McVeigh. And they all had an opportunity to share for each question. And I just want to say that we had one, Maria has only been in her position for 60 days. And we also had a cohort 6 in there too. So they're in an urban setting. So there was definitely a good mix of grantees and their length that they've been in the Native Connections grant. So they talked about as far as how do they go about choosing strategies, cultural strategies and activities. There's definitely a reliance on their advisory board. Really seeking out the knowledge of their GTA and using their GTA to help them connect with other Native Connection grantees that might be in a similar situation or community that they could share ideas. Definitely talking with their youth. For instance, Janelle talked about how they're going to be doing an effort around community capacity building around their traditional medicines and knowledge. So they're going to be launching that here soon. Jacqueline talked about, they were a former Circles of Care grantee. So they had a lot of knowledge and information from their prior work with that grant and from their youth and their elders and their parents. And so they were able to use a lot of that information and kind of launch from there. And they are an urban health center, and they also use a lot of surveys and youth focus groups. And then Michelle McVeigh, who I have not had the pleasure of working with yet in the GPO, she talked about how her role has been to really be an advocate and really support the grantees. And instead of how not to, how they can. So really a real positive attitude and support. I would say the 2 or 3 values that they felt was very helpful for them is patience, flexibility, and creativity. And that sums it up for our awesome group number 1. Thank you, Shabri. Connie?
You are worthy.
All right, you are worthy. You guys did a great job. All right, so we did too. So I'll brag for my group. I think we had Johnny that was willing to do the report out. Is that true, Johnny?
Yes. Hi, everyone. This is Johnny Williams. I'm from American Indian Health and Services in Santa Barbara, California. And we had a great discussion about how we are culturally adapting, virtual activities. So how are we doing cultural activities virtually? And there were so many great creative examples that were shared about cultural activities for virtual and socially distanced adaptations. So I had shared a little bit about using feedback from our Community Advisory Council through Circles of Care, and really listening to community on how to do effective remote activities for community connectedness. So echoing the previous group on, listening to what council and youth are saying. Others shared the importance of reducing social isolation virtually. So examples including culture activity kits, consistent programming, always having consistent activities on the calendar that community can rely on, and through venues like Facebook. So examples of, motivational speeches on Facebook, storytelling recordings, meeting events that involve children, family, youth. So really having that consistent programming that community can rely on virtually. Other strategies that were shared is, taking this time to build intra-agency relationships. So in agencies where there's multiple departments, and really doing in-reach and bridging intra-agency relationships and creating awareness of cultural activities and programs within an organization, and strategies were shared about that and how that is important for continuing to also outreach in community on cultural activities. So really highlighting that as a strategy as well. And if there isn't any other input from my group, I think that's a summary of what we discussed for how to utilize, this time, this virtual time, and connecting and continuing forward with this part of our work plans.
I want to get a shout out to our group. They're wonderful. June, Allison, of course, Johnny, and then Jessica. Awesome job, ladies.
Thank you. Great. Let's move on to group 3. I believe Chanel was the GTA that facilitated that group.
Yes, Chanel was. This is
Youth engagement.
Wigfall. Yes, this is Breland Wigfall. I was in channel 3, and I was our scribe, and I'll be sharing out for crisis response. It was on what were self-care practices put in place during the crisis of the pandemic, and collectively amongst the group, some different things were shared. One tribe had Wellness Wednesdays, where each service area spent 5 minutes doing different things. It could be drawing, talking, a staff GONA, a virtual GONA was conducted across 4 days for one tribe. Digital storytelling was done so that people could share and stay in connection with others. Talking circles, walking, coloring books were distributed. One organization was on campus, a college campus, and for those students who were still on campus, they helped coordinate walks and gave them coloring books as well, played games, did songs and prayers with a health and wellness leader. And they also did distributed bird houses for the students to build, and then they could come back together and outside in a safe measure share their birdhouse creation. One tribe at their weekly staff meetings, they did check-in so that they can talk and say what they needed from each other during that time. And they did a secret Santa gift exchange, and that really excited them and lifted each other's spirits with the gift exchange during the holidays. And one organization had winter kits that they distributed to over 500 people with things like blankets, hats, gloves, journals, coloring books, etc. In those kits to tribal members.
Thanks, Breland. Our group rocked. We had a great conversation in terms of thinking about how we were doing self-care and responding to crisis, not only for our community, but what we were doing for ourselves. So thank you guys for sharing out.
Thank you, Breland. All right, I believe we have group 4. So yes, I misspoke. Crisis response was group 3, and group 4 was with GTA Deb, and we have youth engagement for that group.
Our room had crisis response also, so that's what we focused on.
Oh my goodness, guys, I'm sorry. Yes.
So anyway, we had 8 grantees in our room. Bessie, Desiree, Samantha, Clarissa, Dempsey, Uniba, Tisha, and Veronica. And Bessie from UROC is the person that's going to report out for us. So I'll turn this over to Bessie.
Hi, this is Bessie. So our summary of our crisis response on how to do self-care for ourselves is there was one tribe or organization that did a staff retreat. A lot of us are utilizing the virtual world to stay connected. A lot of programs are providing access to their staff to the vaccine. And one program, the admin provided a staff lunches. One agency, the employee does mental health breaks. One agency did a 10-day closure to prevent exposure or spreading. Staying in the normal routines, but using safety mask and implementing the safety precautions was highlighted. And then the opportunity to work remote, and talking circles were provided to the tribe or the community and the staff. One person shared that she cares for her puppy and takes walks to take care of herself as well. And also, one agency provided federal leave, the 80-hour federal leave to their employees, and ensures that their staff receives a paycheck. And then if the staff is exposed to COVID, they're offered a telework option. And then also one agency provides hardship payment to help with bills. So all in all, the three things I think to summarize all that would be access to staff check-ins to ensure normalcy, like stay in their normal routine as much as possible, and to ensure security by access to vaccines and a paycheck. So that's it. Thank you.
Hey, good job, Bessie. And I think we had a really awesome group. Everybody shared in there to come up with this list. So again, it was a really great group. Thank you.
Hey, this is Dave Braveheart, and welcome to Channel 5. We have our awesome talk host show there, where it's my honor to introduce Terry Yazzie, who's agreed to share with us on youth engagement. So she's here to tell what's happening in the Indian country.
My name is Terry Yazzie. I serve under Native Connections grant. And we had the question, how have best practices different from the past years of COVID? Like David said, our main topic was on youth engagement and connecting and building a sense of community. And I just wrote down the comments, so here are the comments. Everyone is almost zoomed out. Trying to engage youth has been challenging, not being able to connect with one another. It has been challenging getting projects started during the pandemic. There's been delayed projects, but however, has seen success in utilizing social media. Feedback from the youth, they are not only, they're not utilizing Facebook, it's outdated. Trying to learn to meet where a lot of the youth are to be successful. Wrote in first year's terms of organization, utilizing more social media marketing and utilizing social platforms. As far as youth engagement activities, one organization is using an online QPR, and they have indigenized it to their liking. They have utilized activities such as scavenger hunts. They planted rocks, and then use social media to take a picture. Prior to that, they mailed everyone a rock painting kit. And then their purpose of that was to give it to someone within their vicinity, giving it to a neighbor or a friend. Just kind of spreading that kindness. And another activity they utilized was doing a soup and story. They provided the ingredients for the soup, and then tell a story with the elder. And the last one was more of a question. Has anyone had a success from life skills, utilizing life skills? And Jackie responded, they did a in-person Indigenous game training. the youth were able to make the indigenous games, and they teach the game, they made up the game, and they are now currently working on how to do this activity virtually. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you to the rest of the team members. It was an awesome group, so yay. Passing it on to Channel 6.
All right, that will be me, Channel
All right,
6.
Marty.
We had community engagement, and I had a shy group. No one wanted to talk a lot, but that's good. We had 2 that talked and some good participation. And so to do our report out, we have Ken. Ken Hoyt is gonna give us some information. Take it away, Ken.
Hey, everybody. I don't know if you can see me, but this is my Alaska map that I always carry with me. And I'm calling in from South Central Alaska, like just below Anchorage. We're like, I think as a raven flies, it's like maybe an hour from Anchorage, but the way the road and the inlet works, it's like 3-hour drive. But yeah, we've been, like everybody, coping with this thing. I think it would have been a lot easier to adjust if we had just accepted that it's not going to be 2 weeks of lockdown or 2 months of lockdown. But if we just were planning for 2 years of lockdown, then that would have been a way that we could start working on like long-term, robust planning for the future. We have, I guess, the 3 takeaways I could condense to would be like the capacity building in terms of connectivity. So we're getting more and more connections in the community with Zoom. People are getting more used to Zoom and getting more adapted to the digital environment, the virtual meeting environment as we progress. And for the most part in our community, like the youth are online through schools, like we've been in the red. So people have been attending school with their computers. So we do have Zoom as an option to connect with the community, but it's always going to be piecemeal, and we accept that and move forward. The silver lining is that in the virtual environment, people are more connected in terms of long distances. Like I went to, there's like a personal example. I went to like a book talk that was hosted by Harvard, but I was here in Kenai. And that was like, I wasn't like the only one calling in, everyone was calling in with Zoom. And so then we thought about that for a minute, and we had an expert come in from New Hampshire, and we didn't have to pay a plane ticket or put anybody up in a hotel room or anything, but they did a 2-day planning and training workshop with us on postvention, and that was NAMI, New Hampshire, with the Connect workshop. So we've had that blessing of using the computers to connect instead of having to go through all that trouble to meet up in person. Second, I would second the idea of the craft kits. One thing we've had a lot of success with is doing a drum maker curriculum. So we're not just making one drum as a one-time thing. We're trying to make drum makers. And so we have about 20 people who meet up on Zoom once a week, and then find time to build the drums on their own time. And then we kind of check in and see how everyone's doing. And they have support from the facilitators and teachers, but it's like an independent project. And that's really like bringing families together in a neat way. Like parents and kids are working on their drums together. And then the third takeaway is media development and especially WeVideo. I don't think I've heard WeVideo on this call yet, but that's been pretty cool. You can use it like a Google Doc to work on a video together. And to me, that's the response to like youth not being into Facebook and youth being really into video and really into digital, is that you could make videos on WeVideo with a group of people, with youth. And so we've used that in our drum class to make instructional videos. And then we also did like a holiday message using WeVideo. And then that's what we used for digital storytelling over the summer. So that's my that's my shout out to Julie White Pigeon, who taught me about WeVideo, and then also shout out to all my other Alaska attendees on this call. It's good to see y'all.
Thank you, Ken.
Ken, this is John Bird, and we had the number 7 group, and our topic was the Native Connections approach, and our spokesperson is Melanie. Melanie, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Melanie Montoya. I'm from Santa Clara Pueblo. We are room number 7, and our question was, describe the strategies and practices you have put in place to follow and implement the Native Connection approach. Mr. Bird started off and he stated that he's working with cohort 5 out of the Hopi Villages. He said that they have completed the CRA in 1 out of 15 villages. And as a group, they have decided to do a more robust and a more comprehensive CRA. So they actually want to go out and do 15 villages instead of 1. Melanie Jones stated that she is from Choctaw Nation, and the CRA pre-COVID, she said that they did that pre-COVID using integrated approaches with a case manager. They tracked clients who had been discharged for mental health care. There's a lot of networking and follow-up, and she said that that has really been a good benefit to getting all of their CRAs and all of their documents completed. Heaven Estrada from the American Indian Health and Services stated that they are in the process of discussing how they want to build upon the CRA for Native Connections. Michonne Gorman from the Phoenix Urban Indian Coalition stated that meeting community where they are at. Outreach has not been difficult because of past relationships that were built. Fun programming has helped. She knows that a lot of people are overwhelmed with online meetings, Zoom, etc. Haley Solik from Great Plains Native Connection stated that connecting with outside resources to get events started with youth for suicide prevention, that's what they're working on. A helpline is also getting started for the Crow Creek community. And I had also shared with my group that one-on-one communication really helped when we were getting all of our CRAs done. We really miss all of that, not being able to meet with other people. We are in an area to where Santa Clara Pueblo is located. We are surrounded by neighboring towns, but also neighboring Pueblo communities. So that has really helped to make that connection with one-on-one people and also making those connections face-to-face. I think it just goes back to respect. And that was all we had.
Thank you, Melanie. Good job. I'll turn it back over to number 8.
Hi, so I'm Jennifer Nanez, and we were on channel 8, and I am going to turn it over to the wonderful Miss Talia Natachu to report out for our group. And good to see you, Melanie.
Thank you, Jennifer. So it was really cool to listen to everybody in our group, kind of just the diversity of responses. We had the topic of collaboration and partnership. And it was really inspiring to hear that Precious and Stephanie and Michelle were still able to keep, I guess, those partnerships going and even strengthen them during this time. I feel like that's something that we don't always hear, during the time of the pandemic. And so to hear that that had happened was really inspiring. Precious mentioned that the need or the urgency that all of their partners, that they all felt that urgency to kind of provide services and serve the people, their clients and everything. And so that almost like call to action is what strengthened their bond and their partnership. And so that was really, really cool to hear. And then also just how people are adapting and kind of pivoting to these virtual platforms. Michelle said that they were able to continue doing what they do because they turned to the virtual platform. And I know that that's kind of, it depends for different people if that's if that's an option for them, just because of connection issues and, you know, access to technology. But it's good that some folks are able to do that. We also have folks, brand new grantees who are trying to, you know, start all the process of year one and, you know, reaching out to folks and creating those partnerships and collaborating is very essential in that first year. And so, you know, lots of challenges coming up with people not being available, people working from home, people not having access to technology or the internet. So there was that. And then everybody in between. I think our program, Zuni Youth Enrichment Project, we fell in that kind of middle of the spectrum where some collaboration efforts, you know, fell short, where folks completely were unable to just, I guess, function during the pandemic. So that was tough. But then we also had other partnerships who we were able to reach out to because we had a strong relationship from the past. And so, yeah, it was just really cool to hear all the different, I guess, experiences. And Jennifer asked us a question at the end saying, like, what are ways that we can kind of continue to collaborate and build partnerships? And I think those were kind of our takeaways. Several people said that getting onto different agendas is important. If folks or boards or committees are having meetings and it kind of falls under your realm, like try and get on that agenda so that folks know that you're out there and that they can reach out to you. Also kind of personally introducing yourself, putting yourself out there, sending those emails, putting out a pamphlet, and just letting people know that you're there again is very effective. And then asset mapping as well, kind of seeing who you can reach out to and who would be interested to kind of work with you in the different areas. So yeah, if anybody from our group wants to add on, that's about it.
Thank you, Talia. And I'm turning it over to Channel 9.
Okay, I guess that would be me and my team. This is Barbara Aragon, and we touched on Indigenous evaluation, and we looked at both kind of informal tools that people are using, and then some ideas of what kind of they would envision using in the future. And Erin is going to report out for us, so take it away, Erin.
Thanks so much, Barbara. I think, like you were just mentioning, I think part of our conversation really focused on what we have been using already, during the pandemic, and some of the things that we're looking toward and ideas we have for data collection and evaluation moving forward. And so, some of the informal things that our group members have mentioned were using open-ended questions, things like, how are you doing? What do you miss most? What are some of the things you're excited about going forward? Again, kind of getting a sense of where people are at, but also looking at many of the positives. And, some of our group members also have been using more formal data collection measures like the PHQ-9 to assess suicidal ideation. And other things like being able to look at numbers, responses, and calls into on-call lines or crisis lines, things like that. And in terms of looking forward to different ideas for data collection, one group member mentioned really the progress towards developing an Indigenous youth resiliency scale. So again, focusing, very much on the positives and being able to look at, how programming is impacting a lot of those important resiliency variables and the things that, their team is particularly looking out for and concerned about. And also, taking a look at not just the emotional impact of, the pandemic, but looking at financial and other resources and other ways that our families and our youth have been impacted by different things. And some of it, too, is, maybe getting creative and being able to engage with youth and with community members in the ways that, they want to be involved, if it's using different mediums, using art, using video, if it's, you know, meeting them virtually, sending, you know, making a phone call, different things like that to really be able to reach out. So those are some of the main takeaways from our group, but, you know, I invite anyone else to contribute as well.
Thank you, Erin. Appreciate
you.
you volunteering.
Thank you, everyone, for the breakout sessions and participating. And so at this point, we are going to jump right into our presentations. You have something, Shabri?
Yeah, Marty, we just have one last group to do Indigenous evaluation as well. We had that one twice.
I apologize.
So, no, that's okay. I've been doing the same thing. So yeah, we have Allison as our last report out, who is going to let us know about this group as well. And then we'll go into our grantee presentations.
Hi, good afternoon. So in our group, we were discussing how COVID has shaped the way in which we collect data, the way that we assess engagement with the tribal members. One of the things that has come up is that in some ways it's influenced it in a positive way, that we're able to capture more attendance and engagement through virtual platforms. For example, one of the participants and grantees said that they are doing a speaker series online, and some of their videos have been viewed up to 4,000 times. And so that's, you know, helping them to, you know, spread information out. But at the same time, some of the inequities that existed within the tribes are really being exaggerated in many ways through COVID. And so part of the issues with, let's say, engaging with rural communities or food insecurity is even more critical now. And so, you know, some of the grantees are looking at ways in which they can either use Native Connections programming or another grant to assist with those dilemmas and those issues that exist within the tribe. And yeah, ultimately, you know, there's sort of a wide range of populations, and there's some positives, some challenges, and it's really just about being creative and flexible, and at the same time really trying to focus on connecting with tribal members and collecting that information. So I don't know if I missed anything, so I apologize if I did, but it was great working with my group and Shabri, and thank you so much.
Thanks, Allison. I appreciate it. It was a great discussion. And thank you all for the wonderful insight on the topic areas. You guys are all experts in carrying out this work across Indian country. So you're making a huge impact, and we love hearing about it and learning about what you guys are doing. So Marty, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Shabri. As I stated before, we're going to move into our presentations. And of course, as always, we try to do the best we can with our time, but we are running short on time. So we're going to ask, if you have questions for our presenters, to please put them in the chat box, and you can always follow up with them on your own as well, or you can ask one of the GTA's questions and we'll try to get you in touch with them. But first off, we're going to have Southern Ute, and we're going to ask our presenters, if you would, to, of course, please be mindful of our time. We have Southern Ute to present to us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. So yes, we are from the Southern Ute Indian Tribe, and we are the Native Connections Program, which is being operated under our Southern Ute Behavioral Health Division. My name is Precious Collins, Mike. My title is Native Connections Program Coordinator, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Garcia and I am the behavioral health therapist with Native Connections.
Awesome. And so we are the Pinu Nuchu, the Southern Utes of the Southwest Colorado. And the Southern Ute Indian Tribe is one of the three sister tribes, Ute tribes, which was made up of many bands of the Ute bands, I guess, historically, who called the state of Colorado, Utah, and parts of Arizona, and New Mexico, and Wyoming home. And those are just some images of kind of our homelands and hunting grounds, and then also kind of what our reservations have been reduced down to. Next slide.
So before the pandemic hit, there was a lot of things that we were doing with Native Connections in the community. We were starting up community meetings to build a prevention coalition to address mental health and substance use on the reservation. We had held a couple of community trainings to talk about to talk with youth about substance use. And we had scheduled to start the first youth mental health first aid trainings in late March of 2020. We had a lot of other projects that were planned, and then all of a sudden in March, the stay-at-home order hit, and our community was impacted.
So because of this, it has we've learned to take a deep breath. We were forced to take a deep breath, I should say. So one of the ways that we had to get our program back on track was to reevaluate and research, and then from there brainstorm and learn from not only these types of webinars, but also what other organizations or programs are doing out there on similar reservations. And then also looking at how to plan and then implement from there what our strategies were going to be to continue our efforts with the Native Connection program goals. Next.
So I myself am new to Native Connections. I've only been on board with the team for about 3 months, but it was very clear to me that even though this pandemic was going on, Precious was working really hard to keep things going, keep the community involved. And so there was a lot of things like tribal newspaper articles, flyers, getting involved with social media. We had virtual QPR suicide prevention trainings, peer recovery coach trainings, and then support services. So we had things like the Acting All Somehow show, which I was a part of one, where we just answered questions around mental health, like mental health in the holidays, or how to, celebrate and still practice, refraining from substance use, things like that. And then Precious headed up a really awesome project called Reducing Means to Suicide and Harm, this gun lock project where gun locks were handed out to people in the community. And so we still have a lot that we're still trying to do, even though this pandemic has obviously shifted the way in which we do things. We want to make sure that we're still reaching out to the community, still providing support and letting them know that we are here for them, even though it may look a little different right now.
Cool. So one of the ways that we were able to adapt to the stay-at-home order that we're still actually experiencing on the Southern Reservation, we have been restricted to in-person contact and and we've been actually just working from home. So one of the ways that we continued our collaboration efforts was through the Southern Ute Indian Tribes COVID-19 recovery plan, which they created 8 teams, and Native Connections has been participating on 2 of those teams, one of which actually has been completed, which is a community team, but we are still participating on the psychological recovery team. And through this, we have been able to do many of these projects and continue our collaboration efforts. Next.
Sorry. Some of the key projects that we've been working on are family packets, and for instance, like within those packets are things like self-care kits, suicide prevention stickers, arts and crafts, how to make like jewelry, things to keep the family engaged. We are also working on Ute language and culture activities and handouts. We have many short videos that we put online about self-care and substance use. and mental health, community prayers with spiritual leaders, kitchen table talks, so focusing on culture and tradition and just getting the community together and talking about ways to maintain some normalcy within, this very different world that we're experiencing.
So through that, we have been able to collaborate within our tribe with many departments and divisions and programs. And those are just a few that are listed there. Some of which have been a huge, I guess, impact in our relationship as far as, we haven't had that opportunity in the past to collaborate with them as much. And one of them is our Southern Ute Police Department and our Wildlife Division, which was a big part of the Gunlock safety project. So I want to give a shout out to them for stepping up and helping us with that project. And we also collaborated with a lot of non-tribal organizations, both on the reservation and off the reservation. The Southern Ute Indian Tribe is a allotted reservation and open, so we do have some non-tribal organizations that operate within the boundaries of our reservation. And one of those of which has been very important to us is the La Plata County Suicide Prevention Collaborative or Collective, and we've been focusing on county-wide reducing suicide and increasing mental health services and reducing mental health stigma in our county. So it's been awesome to work with them.
So, just in conclusion, obviously this year has been really hard for everyone. We're all experiencing, as we had mentioned, digital fatigue, attending meetings and things like that. And sometimes it could be easy to just go through the motions. But we really want to focus on activating our resiliency, not only as an organization, but as individuals, to keep supporting each other and to make sure that we are making it through this time as healthily as possible as we possibly can. So, yeah.
So with that, Native Connections has continued to initiate upstream prevention efforts and recognizing and initiating, collaborating to get to the root causes of the issues that we're seeing on our reservation and building up the support and services for our families. We've also are going to keep striving to reduce that mental health stigma on our reservation, as well as substance usage for our Native American youth. With that said, our next slide. I have no control over this. The way up. Thank you. And this is our contact information if you feel like you want to reach out to Stephanie or I for more information about some of the programs or projects that we've helped with. And then also wanted to just say a big thank you to the Native Connections program staff and support, and also to our tribal staff for all their technical and design assistance on all of these projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie and Precious. I really loved learning from you guys, and I'm sure a lot of the folks on the call did too today. Your contact information is at the bottom. So if you guys have any questions about the presentation and slides, please enter them into the chat box, and we'll be sure to get them to to Precious and Stephanie, and we'll be able to get a follow-up email out to everybody as well. So next up, we have the Native Americans for Community Action Native Connections Project, and I have Jacqueline and Lisa that are going to be able to share some information with you today. So Jacqueline, would you like to introduce yourself and Lisa today?
Yes, and we also have Terry Yazzie on the call as well.
Oh, and Terry.
Yes, okay, let's jump right into this. So we're going to be presenting to you on program resiliency during COVID, the community readiness model. My name is Jacqueline Salabai. I'm the program manager for Native Connections. Kiani National Tachini Bashichin, Tabaha Edishache, Dolturajini Edishanala, And I like to introduce myself in my Diné language for my relatives and all those relations that are out there. I will turn it over to Lisa to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I am working on evaluation and research in support of this program and in support of Jacqueline. And I am an anthropologist at Northern Arizona University, but most of my time is spent doing support work and research with organizations like NACA. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Carrie Yazzie. I am from the Navajo and Hopi tribe. I come from the Kachina Parrot clan, and yes, thank you.
All right, thank you, ladies. Just some background information about Native Americans for Community Action. We are located in Flagstaff, Arizona. We are an urban Indian healthcare center. We have 3 locations. Within those locations, we have the Family Health Center, the Behavioral Health Center, Wellness Center, and then the Community Development Department, in which Native Connections is housed. In the state of Arizona, we have 22 federally recognized tribes, and we are located in northern Arizona, that little pinpoint there on the map. And just a fun fact, NACA is celebrating their 50th anniversary this year in the community, which is great. And next slide. So I want to paint a little visual here, planting seeds. So if you can visualize a garden, a field, and imagine that you are prepping your seeds to be planted. Prepping your soil, getting the seeds ready, and saying your prayer to plant these seeds to have a plentiful harvest. So that's kind of the same concept we use for our youth, families, and community to watch them grow, to nurture them, to give them water. And in the Western concept, that is more seen as a capacity building, investing in them. But for this, it's more than just investing. It is a holistic approach, not just investing, but building connections, relationships with each other, the program, organizations, and the community. In return, they are building accountability, responsibility, connection, growth, and their long-lasting benefits to see the growth of these individuals into the future, that they will use the skill for the enhancement of their community. So this also builds self-esteem within the individual. It builds belonging to something that's greater for the community and the responsibility of a task and seeing it through. So this is the planting of seeds. Next slide. Can we go to the next slide, please? We'll come back to that one. And this slide is just examples of the virtual events that we held as a result of the shutdowns in March of 2020. Terry's going to go over briefly the brushstrokes and the shoe stories.
So Resilient Brushstrokes was a virtual live painting session with artists from Arizona, California, and New Mexico. We had 2 female artists and 2 male artists from different cultural backgrounds. The purpose of the event was to help kids stay connected and creative through the pandemic. The artists were able to not only show tips and demonstrate their skills, but also cultivate important conversations in the importance of utilizing coping mechanisms such as art to reduce stress and use the creative part of the brain, which opens a new set of ways of thinking and seeing things. It was great to see youth and parents connect and build a sense of community within our little virtual world. Our second virtual event featured a local American artist. The artist was able to teach and demonstrate the art of painting shoes, as well as tell his story of resiliency. This gave the youth an opportunity to tell their stories. Their shoes were provided by 2 local organizations within the Flagstaff area, one being Stronger as One and NACA Behavioral Health Department. Again, our focus of the event was to utilize art to stir emotional responses beyond words to move hearts in giving youth the chance to paint their story. One unique success story with one Native American individual was hearing her doubt herself and not knowing her place in the middle school world. She explained that most of her life she grew up in the city and was unsure of her identity and her sense of belonging. She explained she wanted to use her shoes to identify her clanship as she forgot her clans. She stated she was able to know herself better as a young Indigenous woman and felt that art can be beautiful and messy at the same time with no judgment. As Jackie used the analogy of planting seeds, it was nice to see the individual have growth in her self-esteem and transition into a young Indigenous woman.
Awesome. So for the Hopi R2D2, who is my droid, this video was created for the Red Ribbon Week, and also to talk about the recovery and mentor support system that they have. So if you remember in the Star Wars movie, the droid is often comes to help and aid individuals when they need help. So that was kind of the analogy that we utilized the droid as a support system. So who is your droid? A very successful event for that one. Next slide. So the community readiness model, just a brief information about this for those of you that don't know what the CRM is. It's a model for community change that integrates a community's culture, resources, and level of readiness to effectively address youth mental health and wellness. The readiness is the degree to which the community is ready to take action on an issue, and it can also be used to define issues in the community's own context, build cooperation, capacity building, community investment. It's versatile for any community, and it can be used to address spectrums of issues, and interventions will match the community's level of readiness. And of course, the measurements will be in track these changes. And this is kind of going back to what we were discussing earlier about what tools we can use to create partnership, collaboration, and identify those activities. So there is a visual that I included on my PowerPoint, but it's not on this one. But it kind of goes through the duration of the process of the CRM. And in our community, we identified our subject as youth mental health and wellness. And we defined our community, we created youth interview buy-in, we conducted key respondent interviews. We scored this to determine the readiness level. And then we're supposed to bring that back to the youth culture council / advisory board, and then develop strategies. And from there, conduct workshops and or activities that will help increase the change in our community. Oh, can we go, or actually go ahead, sorry. For the next slide, the CRM virtual training, Lisa will go over this.
Okay, so so when I think about what NACA has been doing for this program, of course, it's wide and varied. There's so many beautiful things happening with this project, just like what I hear are happening at the other sites. So we pulled this out as one aspect of what they're doing that we thought we would share in case it's similar to what others are doing, or if it's an idea that is useful. And that is, in doing the community readiness assessment, it started as Jacqueline imagined this as bigger than just data collection, but something that would build capacity, and now has grown into this idea of the garden and of a holistic way to engage in this beyond what the basic requirement is. And so the idea was to figure out a way to train youth in a way that can help them to grow into the leaders that they already are on the path to becoming by providing different skills that would be useful beyond the assessment. So what we did was develop an introduction to youth, identify some leaders who might want to get involved and who would be interested in participating and learning some new things, and then do a series of video trainings. We have 2 video trainings that go over things like an introduction to the grant and the project, talking about what research is and how it can be used, not in just the idea of research as a researcher, finding out information and extracting it, but actually participating in research in exciting and important ways. How to build rapport when talking to someone and interviewing them, and with things like tone matching and some other key ideas for that. ethics. So if you're participating in research, how to make sure to keep everything confidential, and conducting a questionnaire on the phone, taking notes and doing analysis, making sense of what you heard. So all of the youth participated in the video trainings, and then they filled out some questionnaires. They had some instruments that they could use while they were watching to engage in the trainings. After that, NACA provided the name of some community leaders that they could reach out to by phone. So all of this can happen during COVID, which has worked out really nicely. And the young people first did an interview with someone they knew, just a family member or a friend, so that they wouldn't be nervous the first time they got on the phone with a community leader. And then they were able to reach out to the leaders and do the interviews with them over the phone. They took notes during the interviews and then returned them to NACA so that NACA could include that in the larger data set of really understanding what the community readiness is and focusing on how NACA could support those things.
And then in my role in the community readiness assessment was serving as a mentor and preparing the youth and conducting the interviews. I would walk through the steps within, watch the introductory video and answer any questions on the spot. In walking through the steps, it helped the individual feel more confident and addressed any fears. We role played and they would practice asking the questions and getting familiar with the language and vocabulary utilized. I'll share one feedback from one of the individuals that did participate. The community readiness assessment was a great tool to get to know some community members and to hear their thoughts, ideas, concerns, and knowledge. Overall, the experience taught me a lot. However, I know that the CRA will also help NACA with their development of future programming for Native youth in the Flagstaff area. Moreover, the CRA was a crucial assessment needed in order to understand the community members' want and need for their Native youth. I hope other tribal organizations and healthcare centers will use the same CRA to help guide their programming for all of Native youth throughout the Indian country.
Awesome. Thank you all, ladies. Can we go back to the trust building slide? In looking at the trust building, I think this is an important topic and discussion that we need to have in working with communities, is building that trust. I like to use the analogy of watering our crops. Building trust equivalates to, the water. We take each day to water our crops. We take each interaction seriously to try to build that trust with community programs and youth. And then also the program being out in the community. So I like to focus more on the youth psychotherapist and the relationship that she's creating with our youth, the connections, and also it turning into more of, seeing her as an auntie or a parent and taking the advice from her and building that kinship. And then also the evaluator, Lisa, she is essential to the program. If you have a chance to get an evaluator on your program, reel them in, try to get them into your program as soon as possible, because she brings a different light to the program. There's different layers that I can, I do programming and I see it as programming, but she sees the many different layers and she can pull out everything that we're doing. So I want to turn it over to Dr. Hardy real quick and have her discuss a little bit about the evaluator in the program.
Thank you so much. And I'll be quick because I know we're at the end of our time. I will say that to my role in this, I just feel tremendously honored to be able to support this. And I see my role as an evaluator as someone who is sitting, watching the garden and maybe at times helping in some ways when invited to do so. I feel honored to be able to help NACA tell the story of what they're doing. And so I think a lot of the amazing things that all the sites are doing, sometimes the question is, how do you tell the story? Because you might have an event and sure you can say 30 people went to the online event, but there's so much more that's there. There are the connections, there's the community and how do we tell that story in a way that can help other sites and things like that. I will also mention that, of course, it is important to build trust for evaluators, especially because of the very real history of researchers doing terrible things and not respecting privacy or wanting to publish things when it's not something that a group wants to do for many reasons. And so part of evaluation, the Indigenous evaluation and the different models, I think of as turning the old research completely over and instead doing this organic process of learning what the story is and telling the story from that process rather than imposing external ideas of what a project should look like. And NACA from the very beginning has been doing that also, talking about youth leading the project instead of providing for youth and kind of turning everything in a different direction. And that's part of why I feel so honored to participate in the work that they do, because my job is to help tell that story.
And then we'll go to the last slide, contact information. Our staff emails are there, our website, nacainc.org, and then the social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, Yelp, and YouTube. So just want to say lastly that all of our staff are fully invested and they are a tremendous part of this program, and that the youth are really guiding us as opposed to us guiding the youth. So thank you all.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Naka. That was great information. So as you all know, we're 7 minutes over our allotted time, and I really just wanted to give our next presentation from Phoenix Indian Center. I wanted to give them the time to present. They put a lot of work and effort into this presentation, and so I just wanted to honor them for putting in the time for this discussion. So if you are able to stay on the call, awesome. If you guys are not able to stay on, as I know we're 7 minutes over, it's not a big deal. We are recording this and we can send it out. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Phoenix Indian Center.
Hi everyone, Yate Shea Kennedy Flotaka Yanisha, Tanizani Michelin, Master Dina Bashishin, Kukapana Dashacheta Paha Dashinella. Hi, my name is Kennedy Flotaka. I'm a prevention program coordinator here at the Phoenix Indian Center and with the Urban Indian Coalition of Arizona. I actually have Ms. Sean Gorman on the line as well, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Shea Michon Gorman Yanisha, Twat Hiklini Nishle, Kia Ani Bashishin. Thank you very much for having us this evening, and because we're over time, I'm going to let Kennedy take it away.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So the Phoenix Indian Center has been around for over 70 years. We began with a handful of community members who were seeking refuge and employment here in the Phoenix metro area. These same groups of community members began developing and mapping resources and eventually became a 501c3 nonprofit. And it has grown exponentially over the course of the years, and we now include a wide range of services. Next slide. So we offer workforce development. We provide job readiness training. We also have youth services programming, where we really work with our high school youth to provide college and career readiness training. Also our final youth council as well. We do have language and culture revitalization programs. We do have funding with the Navajo Nation, so we're able to provide Navajo language and children's singing classes. Additionally, we have community outreach and engagement, such as voter outreach and census drives and quarterly community events. And lastly, we have prevention services, which is us. We work primarily through the Urban Indian Coalition of Arizona. We do have evidence-based programs such as Parenting in Two Worlds and Living in Two Worlds. Parenting in Two Worlds is a parent education workshop, and Living in Two Worlds is a substance abuse prevention program for middle school youth. And we also do suicide prevention training. So through Living Works, we're able to provide Safe Talk and Assist, and we are currently offering question, persuade, and refer trainings as well. In addition to that, we have community, can you go back? Sorry. In addition to that, we actually have community education workshops such as RX360, Historical and Intergenerational Trauma, and GONA. Next slide, please. Again, we work through the Urban Indian Coalition of Arizona. Next slide. So pre-pandemic, we were able to provide in-person GONA workshops. They were very popular in the community. We actually had community members coming up to us over the course of the years and asking us when we're going to have our next GONA. They're really excited. And so our largest GONA actually had up to 90 participants. The picture over here to our right has about 60 participants available, or participants that participated in the GONA. Our GONAs typically last throughout the course of a day, about 6 hours. And through that 6 hours, we go through the 4 concepts of GONA. And we now provide GONA virtually. Next slide. So in working with our longtime GONA facilitator and trainer, Jerry Brito, and her team, we were able to plan our first virtual GONA for our PIC staff, our team members. We do have it virtually. It did take place over the course of 4 days at 2 hours per session, following the SAMHSA guidelines. Each session covered 1 GONA concept per day. Some of the challenges that we experienced was definitely technology. Because we had some team members in the office, we did experience some internet issues. It kind of slowed down our Wi-Fi a little bit. But then we also had issues with webcams. We really wanted to get that real feel of GONA, how it was in person. So we really wanted to be able to see everybody's faces. So we kind of had to figure out the webcam situation, but also if we could distribute laptops with cameras, we did that as well. Some safety pieces, we did have some people in the office, so we did do some social distancing and making sure that everybody was placed throughout our floor. We did provide Zoom breakout rooms for processing as needed. We did live stream the altar, and it was really well received. The only reason why it was a challenge is because we did have some team members who were actually allergic to sage. So we were unable to do that in the office, depending on certain times of the day. And we also had challenges with supply kits. So even though we do have some team members in the office, we also have people working from home. So just making sure that people were picking up their supply kits on time. And we also have 2 team members who actually work in the NACA office in Flagstaff. And Flagstaff isn't just down the road. If you guys have been to Arizona, it's actually about a 2-hour drive. So just making sure that we're mailing out those supply kits in a timely manner. But we did have some successes. We did have 32 team members who attended our first virtual GONA. We were able to live stream the altar. Again, it was very well received. And we had a TOT, been working with Jerry's team. We were able to train 10 team members and 2 community members to become GONA facilitators. Our biggest takeaway from this in planning our first virtual GONA and doing the TOT is the backdoor agenda is key. That is very critical in terms of how the flow of the workshop will go. Next slide, please. Following our virtual GONA and our T for T, the last week of December, we actually held our first virtual youth GONA. It went pretty good. We had about 20 participants. Again, we followed SAMHSA guidelines, so it went over the course of 4 days at 2 hours per session. We really wanted to get these students involved and get them to turn on their cameras. We wanted to see their faces. So we tried to do different virtual background things throughout the course of the 4 days. So on this day in particular, we did SpongeBob. And on this day, they really got into it. We actually had participants turning on their cameras, and they had their different themes and the different SpongeBob themes everywhere. And so it was really cool to see. We were really excited, and we were glad that they enjoyed that. Next slide. Following that, at the end of the day, when we were doing our bell-down process, we actually had a facilitator who was facilitating that. And then we had another person who was doing our digital storytelling piece. So as people were debriefing and telling us what they heard, what they saw, what they felt, our other team member was actually taking all of this information and putting it into a word cloud. So you can see throughout the concepts, everybody it's kind of cool to see because you kind of get a visualization of how the day went. So like belonging, everybody felt respected. They were vulnerable, they were comfortable, especially for the first day. And mastery, they were motivated. We did share some, team members shared some stories, and that was very motivating for the participants. Interdependence, we kind of let them know that it's okay to ask for help at any stage of your life. It's okay to ask for help and to feel safe and, have that connection. Generosity, calming, fulfilling. This was on New Year's Eve. Yeah, New Year's Eve was on December 31st. So they all felt recharged and felt good, and we're excited to close out 2020 and start 2021. Next slide. Again, we do question, persuade, refer trainings. We are offering them virtually. Safety is our main piece throughout all of this. So we do have co-facilitators, Cherry and Kyrene, who facilitate the trainings. In addition to our co-facilitators, we actually have we have a community support resource who's also there as well. They also act as our tech support. And really what the CSR does is just kind of monitors the room while the facilitators are facilitating. They kind of check to see if everybody's cameras are on. If anybody turns their camera off for any time, they'll go in and chat them privately and ask them how they're doing, if they're okay. So very much like Safe Talk and Assist, where you give your thumbs up and you're leaving the room. It's very much like that. And our co-facilitators actually follow up with the participants after the training, just to make sure that everybody's processing everything and all of that. Next slide. In addition to our QPR trainings, we actually hold annual suicide prevention convenings. We typically get around 35 to 60 community members who participate. We do hold focus groups and World Cafe style discussions where we ask questions about community perceptions, about why suicide is prevalent and how we can address it in an effective way, as well as to identify data gaps. Next slide, please. So taking those focus groups and the discussions, we actually received some recommendations, and that's to hold our convening at least once per year, to create a working group of professionals to plan strategically and to address suicide in the American Indian community in Maricopa County, and to really get elders and youth at the table, and to train non-Native organizations in cultural competency. We also are, for the first time this year, we were holding a virtual series. Our first series took place in December of 2020. We discussed indigenous foods and aromatics and strengths for mental health coping mechanisms as they relate to suicide. This is the first of our mini-series, so our next mini-series should be taking place in March. Next slide, please. Again, you can follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Next slide. And thank you guys for attending. If you guys like to contact us at the prevention team, there's our phone number. And if you'd like to register for our workshops and trainings, you can visit the Phoenix Indian Center website. Thank you.
Woohoo! Thank you, ladies. I know that was fast and furious and you rocked and rolled through it. So we might actually look at another time for you guys to share out on an NLC or an upcoming RLC, because I know you did have to kind of go through that quickly, but thank you so much. The information was absolutely wonderful. So I know we had some time for a Q&A. I'm going to shift it over to Marty. He's going to move us forward.
Well, thank you, Chanel, and thank you to all of our presenters, and thank you for all of you that have stuck it out with us and to see our presentations. And to conclude here, we had someone to do our closing, but I'm not sure if they're on here right now.
Hunter is going to close for us now since Connie had to hop off.
Okay, Hunter, we're gonna hand it over to Hunter Genia to give us our closing for today. And once again, we want to say Bilahuk, or thank you to everyone that has joined us on our NLC today. And we look forward to future NLCs and other events. So Hunter, you want to close us out?
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. I just want to thank all the presenters and everyone for joining. Awesome presentations. I'm just going to do this song. It's just a traveling song. I'm only going to sing it one time through, and I just want to send my love and blessings to all my relations out there in Indian country, and continue to do the good work. We really appreciate you. Oh, bewitched.
Thank you again, Hunter. If we can go to the next slide for everyone, we want to let you know about some of the upcoming events that we're having.
It's not letting me move the slide deck forward anymore.
You may have to go back. I think it was out of order.
Oh,
There it
here?
is.
There we are. So our upcoming events, we have a Native American Alaskan substance abuse prevention skills training overview on Tuesday, January 19th. We have SAP success stories on January 26th, crisis response during a pandemic on February 9th, and our next NLC will be February 16th, 2021. Please note the time is rescheduled as well. We couldn't update it today, but also the next NLC after that, the date is wrong there. It should be March 2nd. So at this time, we'll say thank you to everyone, and this will conclude the NLC for today. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a fabulous day.